Bizemag podcast brings another interesting book reading session by Manju Vaish. Manju Vaish is a retired English teacher from Loretta Convent, Delhi. She started writing middles for the daily national newspapers of India like Times of India. She can recite Julius Caesar forwards and backwards and enjoy teaching it to her students. We bring her live reading of few published middles from her bag of own writings. I hope you would enjoy this episode. Please do not forget to like and subscribe Bismarck YouTube channel and Bismarck podcast. Enjoy.
A young girl asked me what a middle was. I thought it was a strange question initially, but then I said the middle has been dead and gone for the last 25 years. So it is perfectly legitimate for her to ask that. So I told her a middle was a piece of writing which came in the middle of a newspaper. And then I told her what it was all about. A middle is just a slice of life. It could be written on any topic. You could write about the antics of a poodle if you wanted, but it had to be written in a certain style. The language had to be good, and you had to follow the discipline of the word limit. If it was 540 words, it doesn't mean it 541 is allowed. It had to follow a very strict discipline. And uh, Mrinalini said, I thought writing middles is very difficult. Then I thought to myself, I said, it's not difficult at all. But then I said, really, it wasn't that easy when I started writing because there was no Microsoft Windows or Word to do your spell check or to do your word count or to do any of those things. All those things we had to do ourselves. I did not have a computer or a keyboard. I had to hammer out my pieces on an old Olivetti typewriter, and my articles had to be manually taken to Bahadur Shah Zafar Marg and given in person. So it was not easy for all these reasons. The writing part came very easily to me, but the other gymnastics of transporting the article and all that was a little difficult. But I loved writing the middles. The middle was a slice of life, there was no agenda at all, and I will begin by reading out a middle which is about a train journey taken in my childhood when I was about 10 or 11 years old. Now, train journeys in those days were very different from the journeys you have today. The first class compartment of the train was like our very own room. It had its own attached toilet. The windows used to open right up, and you could yank your head out at every station and say, oh, I'm going to take a samosa in this station, and we'll take a peda at the next station, and we'll wait for something else in the next station which it is famous for. So that was a big gastronomical journey, I would say. Then there was no railway catering, no problem. We had our own food. There was no bottled water. We carried our own surahi with us. And the steam engine emitted a lot of soot. We used to look like chimney sweeps at the end of the journey. And so our mothers put us in very dark, old clothes, so that we wouldn't look too frightful at the end of the journey. So now I'll read out this little piece.
Tell us about how you collected these middles.
Ah, this is a story. I used to write the middles and just tear the page off from the newspaper and put it to one side in the cupboard. And on the other side would be old newspapers. So one day I told the driver, I said, there are too many old newspapers, just take them and give them to the kabadi. Now, that poor guy, he took the old newspapers, and along with that was a stack of middles. So they also went to the kabadi. I said, well, what's gone is gone. But my husband said, no, we can't give up like this. The Times of India has archives. I'm going to ask them, and they'll dig it out from their archives. So the Times of India had a very loose system of asking a babu to type out those articles in those days. And the babu did not do his job He did not type out all the middles, and I got only 3 middles back from the Times of India. I must have written at least 45, 50. So then all of them are gone, right? But it's all right. I still have quite a lot of masala to entertain you with this evening, right? So, yes. So I said I'll read out the first one. Shall I stand and read it? It'll be better.
Sit, please.
Okay. Page 23 for those who have the book, but it doesn't matter. Railroad to nostalgia. Come summer, and my mind goes traipsing back some 40 years to the sprawling Haveli of my grandparents in the sleepy old town of Mathura. The walls of this grand edifice would reverberate with the cacophony of the 30 odd grandchildren, an equal number of aunts and uncles, a dozen cats and dogs, 2 horses, 2 cows, and a buffalo, all vital constituents of the fold. The odyssey from Bombay to Mathura took place in the old first class compartment of the frontier mail. This was to be our very own fiefdom for the next 24 hours. My father, the imperious Mughal, my mother, his Begum, and we kids, their errant subjects. Father would bark orders, arranging the trunks and beddings with military precision. The big black surahi would be placed next to the window to catch the draught, which would soon cool the water to perfection. Having done his bit, he would settle down in a loose kurta pajama with his pipe and a thick book for most part of the journey. Soon after, mother would attend to her domain. A large slab of ice, firmly ensconced in a gargantuan metal tub, would serve the dual purpose of ice box come air cooler. On this, she would adroitly arrange the most golden Alfonso mangoes and musk melon. A couple of hours later, the ice having shrunk somewhat, bottles of lemonade would be jammed in along the sides. For us kids, the holiday commenced on the train itself with the initial scramble for the upper berth. Out came the pack of cards, the Ludo board, Chinese checkers, an assortment of comics, my prized collection of silver paper wrappers, Coca Cola corks, and miniature bottles. With this awesome array of ammunition, boredom didn't stand a chance. Our games extended well beyond the lights out call. With father's snores, the mice resumed their play till the staccato swaying of the bogey lulled us to sleep. The next day commenced with steaming hot cups of tea from earthen pulhards. Each station offered its very own gastronomical delights, which just had to be savoured. And then we would yank our heads out of the window to watch the deep grey ringlets of smoke go winding into the firmament like some ephemeral staircase to heaven. The dense forests of teak and sal had long given way to the burnt sienna of the scorched northern plains, with thorny babool and kikar bushes, lone, obdurate survivors. The clink of the massive 5-tiered brass tiffin carrier was a welcome intermission. Rolls of golden puris with potatoes laced with tangy mango chutney would be passed around. Then the grand finale. Mother would ceremoniously pull out her shiny German knife to cut the crisp, cool fruit to be washed down with fizzy lemonade. As the hulking engine ground to a halt, our dismay rapidly gave way to anticipation of raiding the tamarind tree, collecting fresh jasmine blossoms for Dadi's puja, wild dunks in the tank cum swimming pool. That, however, would have to be another middle.
Very, very, very interesting.
So you see, despite all the handicaps, we had a ball. The train journey was the holiday itself, the beginning of the holiday itself. Now, this middle is absolutely innocent, it has no agenda, it's just a piece of life, a piece of my childhood. Now, sometimes you unwittingly write a middle which has no agenda, which has an impact. I will read one such middle, which I did not intend to make an impact, but it did. It's called the Shatoosh saga. Now, as you all know, the Shatoosh is the world's most expensive wool, and it is also the most lustrous wool in the world. Now, whereas the Pashmina is a very fine wool, it is sheared. The Shatoosh, on the other hand, comes from the under fur of the Tibetan antelope or chiru, and for that, the poor animal has to die. So many chirus have to lose their life in a very cruel way sometimes to achieve this beautiful fabric of Shatoosh. Then, when Menka Gandhi became the environment minister, she, being an animal lover, banned the Shatoosh, and rightly so. If you were caught with a Shatoosh, the punishment was very, very heavy in those days. When I wrote this article, I was told by my family, don't you send it. The very word Shatoosh will put you in jail. So I said, I have written it and I'm sending it. I will face the consequences. And I sent this article, and you'll be surprised, within a month, the rule was changed. If you had an old Shatoosh, it was absolutely kosher. But if you had bought a new one within 1 or 2 years, I don't exactly know, then of course the penalty would hold good. So now I shall read the second one which I have in store for you, the Shatoosh saga. When my father gifted my mum a Shatoosh shawl about 50 years ago, little did he reckon that he had blood on his hands. This gossamer soft mantle quite suddenly propelled an otherwise unprepossessing lady into the echelons of the Goenkas and the Gangopadhyayas of the Calcutta glitterati. However, it was on our annual Christmas vacations, when the whole clan got together at our grandparents' ancestral Haveli at Mathura, that the shawl received its legitimate due. Suddenly, a lackluster bureaucrat's wife took on the aura of a celebrity. My mother was the cynosure of all eyes. Aunts, grandaunts, neighbors, et al. Trooped in along with their broods to see, to touch, to ooh and ah at the delicacy of the hallowed fabric. They congratulated mother on her good fortune, while father was held in awe as a veritable 20th century Santa. And all the while, we kids never could comprehend the to do such a mousy looking piece of cloth could evoke. About 15 years ago, my mother passed away. Both my brothers and their wives and my sister had come from the US for the funeral. After a few days, my father asked us to have a look in mum's wardrobe and pick up anything we liked. My sister and sisters in law assured me that a shawl would be most impractical for them in the windy winters of America. So it was with a reasonably clear conscience that I took on the mantle, quite literally, from my mother. For many years, I too enjoyed the shawl. Not only was it fine enough to pass through a ring, it was also a very dear memento. I treasured it, darned though it was in a couple of places, reserving it only for very special occasions. But that was then. I had revelled in the bliss of the ignorant. Now that I know better, of the 200 odd little innocent chirus that had to suffer a slow, torturous death to create this beauty, I am loath to touch it. Gingerly, I approached my daughter and daughter in law. Would they like the Shatoosh? Never. How could I even think of it? It was a veritable graveyard on one's back. Far better to burn the wretched thing than to pass it on to posterity. A mute testimony to the inhumanity of the Homo sapiens towards their more vulnerable biological brothers. There are just too many memories entwined in the warp and weft of its weaving. Many counseled me in their wisdom to sell it and be done with. But to peddle such an heirloom surely would be sacrilege. And how can one bear to trade a storehouse of memories? I can't burn it. I dare not gift it. And to sell is out of the question. What on earth do I do with it? Ironically, this feather-light shawl now sits heavy on my shoulders. So it lies at the bottom of an old tin trunk, the keeper of other assorted mementos of times gone by. Hubby's sherwani, my wedding sari, and a couple of medals won by the children. Thank you.